We're on your side with tonight's cover story, honoring the legacy of a monarch. Today, the world said goodbye to Queen Elizabeth II, who passed away 11 days ago at the age of 96. She was the longest reigning monarch in the history of the United Kingdom. Last Wednesday, we watched the Queen leave Buckingham Palace for the last time in an historic procession toward Westminster Hall. Massive crowds lined the streets across central London to honor the Queen's 70-year reign.
She has that magic about her, much more than monarchy. She's an icon of icons.
Seems like the right thing to do, you know, being British, and that was my Queen.
The Queen's coffin was draped with a royal flag and topped with the crown she wore for her coronation in 1953. For days, we have watched people pay their respects to the late monarch. WBTV's David Wisnett traveled to London, and today we talked about the things he saw and heard. He had a unique opportunity to witness history firsthand.
I was here for a week, and it was like right at the beginning, you still had folks sort of in shock. They take the Queen very seriously here. I think you probably have figured that out by now. But then it almost became kind of a fun celebratory thing when you had the queue and there was all the jokes about how long you were going to stand in the queue. But then I feel like it changed yesterday when I guess the reality of the funeral and the service and all of that sort of set in. And it's been much more somber today. Right now it seems to be a little better, but I just think like yesterday afternoon, last night, today, much more somber.
David, the funeral itself today hit on two important parts, obviously, of the Queen's life, her faith and her commitment to service. How did those things shape her and also shape her reign?
Well, if you think about it, those things were together from the very start. She made a pledge before God that she would serve Great Britain and the Commonwealth, you know, for the rest of her life. And so from that faith, she learned this discipline of service. And that's really what she was about. And that's really what she sort of wanted to, I guess, to put out there, to be her, the characteristics of her nature is just to be a servant.
You kind of hit on this, David. You know, we live in divided times, right? Often cynical times, yet this event has seemed to bring people together. You got that sense, obviously, there. Why do you think that was?
I think it's because you have a figure that transcends politics. There's a big difference, obviously, in the United States where we have elected officials. We have a president that is our head of state, and that president can be changed out every 4 years or however often I guess we want. But in this case, you have a woman who totally transcended politics, did not get involved in it, and so you had people. We talked to people here this week who don't like the monarchy, but they loved Queen Elizabeth.
You know, over the last week, you've had this incredible front row seat to history. You've helped bring us closer to this story. What will you take away?
I guess I will take away that you have this entire nation of people who have different backgrounds, different political opinions, different religions and such, and yet they seem to be drawn to this queen. There seemed to be something in the personality of Elizabeth II that attracted people, and I think that's what's going to stick with me. And the love of the pomp and the pageantry, I already had it, but I got to see it in person this time, and let me tell you, you ain't been wowed until you've seen this stuff in person. When you see these military bands and everything else that goes into it, and you know that every movement they make has meaning, everything they do has centuries of tradition behind it, it's fascinating.
Our David Wisnett been reporting in London, doing a terrific job for us. Now, Charlotte has a complicated history with the monarchy. Long ago, we honored it, then we kicked it out, and now today we identify with it. We spent a couple minutes earlier today with History South's Tom Hanchett to walk us through the years and shifting positions on how we view royalty. And it all starts with Queen Charlotte.
She became queen in 1761. The colonial governor decreed that Charlotte could grow as a city in 1768. And so she was kind of top of mind that way. Colonial governor's name was William Tryon Street. And what we wanted was to be a courthouse town. We wanted to be an administrative center for this colonial government. And naming us after the big cheese in London, good politics.
Put you in good graces then with the folks back home. Also in the heart of Mecklenburg County. Also a royal name, correct?
Right. Queen Charlotte was royalty twice. She was out of the German royal family. She was an immigrant in today's parlance. And at that point, the royals would all marry with each other. She was from Mecklenburg, Strelitz in Germany. That's how the county got its name. And she came to the King George III as a 17-year-old. Had never met the guy. Got off whatever the transport was, and that evening they had the wedding.
So obviously, though, this becomes a complicated relationship with the crown and the monarchy, because this place didn't really like the king and queen at some point.
Eventually, we had a revolution, not that long after, in the 1770s, 1780s, and but we kept the name Charlotte.
And it's also interesting, it's not far from where we're sitting right now. The Charlotte Hornets play basketball. There's a reason that name is part of the basketball team, right?
When folks in Charlotte, the city, were kicking out the Royals, the last general to come through, Lord Cornwallis, coming from England, figured, you know, everybody's going to be a loyal British subject. They'll come out and welcome me. And instead, they shot at him because they saw themselves as Americans. And he said to have written in his diary as he left that Charlotte was a hornet's nest of rebellion. He went up north towards Yorktown, Virginia, and George Washington finished him off.
Here we are all these years later, and we now embrace it once again as our name. Why do you think we do that?
Royals are special, and folks like that kind of royal touch. Even though we are, you know, the country of America, we the people, there's still a little bit of the English monarchy that beats in our hearts.
Hence the crown that you see all around the city of Charlotte. Tell us your thoughts about the Queen and the celebration of her life. You can connect with us on Instagram and Twitter using the hashtag OYSTonight. You can also scan the QR code to write